Hi, my name's John, and I'm here for the Wargamerist. Now, I decided to do World Eaters. These are very different from anything I'd really tackled before in my wargaming hobby. Everything I'd done up until now had always been sort of very organic. I'd sort of Tyranids, Death Guard, but even the Death Guard, I leant far away from the sort of polished metal trim and very much into the sort of fleshy abundance of it all. But I decided with the World Eaters I wanted something that really sort of exemplified, where these guys had been, where they were coming from. I very much lent into they've been around for 10,000 years, 4,000 years, 3,000 years, or some of them might even be new. So I really wanted this to be a sort of berserker warband, and I wanted that in the truest sense of the words. I wanted to, really pile on the infantry, the troops. I didn't want to have any named characters. I wanted very much these are the guys who are running around in space. Angron isn't there, Khan isn't there. These are their own guys doing their own thing. Coming to that, I decided I really wanted to make them sort of my own, and sort of really thought about, what is it that makes them their own? Is it sort of ingenuity? Is it a love of killing? Is it things like that? So I very much sort of lent into what can I do when building these to make them my own. And starting off, it all came down to, surprisingly, the basing to start with. Before anything else, I decided that I really wanted to sort of set the scene of where they were going to be. In this case, I chose sort of like a military rubble. So it's all sort of, like an abandoned, air base or something on some, industrial world. It's all sort of, broken slabs of concrete, sort of bits of wire, bits of, industrial complex, these big old sort of uniform blocks, as well as like the sort of general concretey ground. And from there, I sort of lent into what are they going to be wearing? What they're going to be doing? How do I make them feel like my own, feel like they really belong to this setting? So on a lot of them, as you can see here, I very much sort of try to really make it feel like they're interacting with the terrain around them. So everything sort of jumping off the blocks, standing behind columns, really getting this sort of leaning into the posing of the model. Very much whenever they've got these nice charging poses, it seemed like a perfect opportunity for running and jumping off these large blocks. It makes the units slightly higher, but it really makes them stand out and stand apart from each other on the tabletop. This is a really good way if I want to expand to, say, 30 berserkers. I can make them all feel really unique and really their own. Another thing I did was, in the berserker sort of kit, it turns out you had a few extra axes and a few extra chainswords, and you sort of pick between the two of them, which is me being greedy, I didn't want to do, and I decided to sort of combine them into these sort of chain halberds. So I had about, 5 chain halberds you can make out of each kit by just combining the spare axes and spare chainswords. So that made it something very unique to the warband themselves. One thing I've also added, and I've added it on quite a few of the models, not all of them, just sort of like 5 to 10 out of like 30, is these loops of jewelry chain, and it's really a sort of tying themselves to their equipment, a bit like the way Black Templars and things do, so they can't let go of their equipment. This was something that I thought really added a lot of character to the units and to the models, and really sort of made them feel like them and their weapons really belong to each other. When it came to things like the rhino that you'll see a picture of, I very much led into like, what is it just a transport for them? Is it a way to move across? Is it a way to charge in? And I really sort of thought, right, what would World Eaters use a rhino for? And as well as getting into the combat as quickly as possible, I thought it would be a bit more of an altar, but an altar to bloodshed, which is where I've sort of chained a sort of possessed demon axe to the back, and also definitely needed the spikes on the front for ramming into the enemies. You can also see a jackal that's going to be running and jumping off the front, straight into the heart of combat. So everything about these guys was sort of leaning into getting into the fray as fast as possible, running, shooting, doesn't matter, just get in as fast as possible and bloody up your opponent. I very much led into what I wanted this to be. This was going to be, as I mentioned before, their own warband. This was very much going to be a case of infantry. Terminators were a nice option, especially with the new detachment rules coming out. I found really interesting. Something that you couldn't do before was make the Terminators feel like they really belonged to a particular World Eater list. Now you can give them a +1 to their weapon skill, making them all hit 2+ with their power fists. It seemed like an opportune time to make these sort of really strong, combat frenzied berserker Terminators. In terms of the combat patrol I'm doing, I was sort of split between two, and I still am to this point, which I'm kind of making enough models to be able to do both types of the combat patrol. One with the 20 berserkers, the 10 jackals, and the Lord Invictus, the named one. The other option was the 10 berserkers, 10 jackals, a master of executions, and a demon prince. Now I still need to pick myself up a demon prince, but that gives me the option to do both of these combat patrols, or build into a really nice sort of 1,000-point list from there using, what's between them. You've still got that 10 jackals and 10 berserkers as the heart of the heart block of both of these units. So by the time I'd painted up one and the other, it wasn't far of a stretch to paint them both up at the same time. I was really looking forward to potentially doing a few other nice effects, which I might come back to at the end with sort of using sort of toothpick, cotton bud sort of hair to create, like flowing sort of manes out of the back of them. But the more I got into it, the more I sort of thought, if I'm doing these bulk to play and I wanted to do them quickly, I wanted to start painting them as quick as possible. And some of these extra details you can kind of add at the end, if and where they're needed. So I very much stuck to just doing the jeweler's chain, just making these chain halberds and making the basing fairly, flow with the model. And that's where I sort of stopped. I was like, okay, because you can keep going again and again and again, and you can make things more and more detailed. By stopping at this point, I sort of gave myself an easy out and just be like, I don't have to paint 200 details for every model. I just have to, concentrate on what's there, get the basics down, and leave it into a position that if I really want to do these extra, cloaks, these extra sort of manes of sort of wispy hair, I can always come back to it at a later date and add more and build onto the units. So, we'll give you a brief preview of one of the paint schemes that I trialed, and this is the one I finally stuck with, which was very much a sort of toon tone effect, where I started spraying the purple from all the bottom, and then I sprayed a coat of red from the top before any details. This really gave me sort of some really nice interesting shadows and some interesting painted effects to sort of build up from. But you'll get to see more of that and where I went for in batch painting in my painting update video.